Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the GradNation campaign's webinar, Achieving a 90% graduation Rate, Relationships and Mindsets that Strengthen School Climate. Before we begin, we want to note a few ground rules. Due to the volume of participants today, everyone has been muted. At any time during the presentation, you can use the questions panel to write and submit your questions. We will try to take as many questions as possible following the presentation. We invite you to join the conversation on Twitter by using the hashtag GradNation during and after the presentation. This webinar will be recorded. A link will be shared in the coming days on the GradNation website. Finally, we encourage all participants to take a 2 to 3 minute survey immediately following today's webinar. This survey information will help us better understand who you are, whether this webinar was valuable to you and your work, and what topics you'd like to see covered during future GradNation learning sessions. We will now get started and the recording will begin. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. Before we dive into the webinar, first, I want to give an overview of today's agenda. We will begin by briefly discussing why we are focusing on school climate and explore the research about cultivating a positive school climate for students and what it takes to do this. Then we will invite Virgil Shepard and Latasha Golden from City Year National to discuss their approach to addressing the students' holistic set of academic and socio-emotional needs and how that ties in with creating positive school climate.
Apologies, we're just having a moment of technical difficulty. Apologies, everyone. We're back up and running.
Sorry about that. But just to go over the agenda really quickly, so first we're just going to have some welcome and a background of the information to discuss why we're focusing on school climate and explore the research about cultivating a positive school climate for students and what it takes to do this. Then we will invite Virgil Shepard and Latasha Golden from City Year National to discuss their approach to addressing the students' holistic set of academic and socio-emotional needs and how that ties in with creating a positive school climate. Following that, we will dive deeper into the work that City Year Detroit is doing to put their holistic approach into practice in one of their partner schools, Osborne High School. Brian Kilkelly and Adam Scanlon from City Year Detroit will begin and then join a moderated panel discussion with Pashan Johnson, a principal at Osborne High School, and Jamon Miller, an 11th grade student at Osborne High School as well. Following the panel, we will close with a question and answer period. And just a friendly reminder, throughout today's webinar, please submit your questions via the questions box. We will collect questions throughout the presentation and ask them once the panel discussion concludes. The GradNation Action Platform articulates the evidence-based best practices that contribute to an increasing graduation rate. You can find more detail about each platform area, including practices, places, and partners involved in this work on our website. Here we share 2 definitions from 2 national efforts to define, measure, and implement positive school climates. As these definitions show, school climate is multifaceted. It involves safety, engagement, collaborative visioning, and collective responsibility to act consistently. In today's webinar, we will take a deeper dive into the School Climate Action Platform by focusing on the relationships between students and in-school staff. In the high school setting, improving school climate can seem like a difficult proposition against the backdrop of academic requirements, post-secondary planning, and adversity and trauma. Because school climate has so many aspects, and occurs in the complex context of school, partnerships with organizations outside of school are required. The Center for Promise, the applied research arm of America's Promise, uses the term web of support to describe how youth relate to adults and peers in their lives and how these relationships provide the developmental support necessary to be on a positive developmental trajectory. Each relationship between a young person and adults and between a young person and other young people contributes to school climate. After all, at the end of the day, the school experience is determined by the quality of interactions between and among youth and adults. America's Promise Alliance is joined by City Year National and City Year Detroit in partnership with Osborne High School. They will share how tapping into relationships and understanding mindset growth shapes their school climate work and their whole child, data-driven approach, and the resources and capacities needed to implement it at an individual student, classroom, and school-wide level. They stress how relationships require practice, ongoing collaboration, and mindset adaptation. City Year's approach to supporting youth development puts relationships at the center, which is beginning to positively impact school climate in Detroit. Together, City Year and Osborne High School's educators and youth are doing the critical work of building relationships that reflect changing mindsets, collaboration, and a commitment to practice. Before we transition the webinar to City Year, we wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the data set that can help us to understand school climate. According to the National Center on Safe and Supportive Learning Environments, school climate measurement involves a comprehensive assessment of student engagement, school safety, and the learning environment. A few of the main sources used to measure school climate are provided on the slide. The information gained from the measurement tools provides educators with the necessary data to identify school needs, set goals, and track progress toward improvement. Furthermore, utilizing just one metric is good, but using multiple data points is the key to successfully implementing interventions that will contribute to a positive school climate for the youth in that school. Now I will hand it over to Virgil Shepard, National School Partnerships Director, and Latasha Golden, National After School Specialist from City Year National, to share City Year's national approach to meeting students' holistic set of academic and socio-emotional needs, and how that ties in with creating and measuring school climate so that students continue to stay in school and graduate.
Good afternoon, everyone. As stated, my name is Virgil Shepard, and I proudly serve as the National School Partnerships Director for City Year Incorporated. Today, we're really excited to talk to you about our partnerships across the country and the way we partner with school districts and schools to improve practice and really improve school climate. So I want to start with this centering statement that you'll see on your screen. At City Year, we know all kids can learn. It's that centering statement that drives us and gives us that grit and that energy and determination to continue to push forward. We believe that regardless of zip code, of socioeconomic class, of all circumstances, we believe every student can learn, and that's something that's underlying and something that is very core to who we are and what we do. In terms of us as an organization, we are a proud AmeriCorps program. We have over 3,000 AmeriCorps members across the United States. And key partners for us are schools and districts. As you see, we're in nearly 350 schools across the United States when we partner with districts. We view our work as being amplifiers in charging stations, and we partner with districts. We do it best. We're not the solution. We're part of the solution, and we take this work very seriously in terms of partnership. For our AmeriCorps members are diverse young people that are able to form a near-peer relationship with students in schools. They typically serve for a year or are able to serve for longer, and they receive training. First thing that City Year, there's ongoing training and support. One other thing to notice, through our network and just our years of service, we have over 30,000 AmeriCorps alum in the United States right now. And through some of that work, they're able to, go into other careers aligned with the work we're trying to do, whether it's the nonprofit sector or the education sector. Additionally, our AmeriCorps members are supported by a position which we term Impact Manager. Later, you'll get a chance to hear from Adam, as he's the Impact Manager at Dearborn High School, and they're key and pivotal to the work that we do. They manage the AmeriCorps members, they provide guidance, and they also provide the regular development throughout the year. They also are key because they serve on the leadership team for our principals, and they act like a right hand, and you'll get a chance to see some of that interaction later. Additionally, when we think about just who we recruit and how we recruit it, we definitely recruit for diversity. This year's scores, 56% of folks identify as people of color. We have 77% are college grads. Over half express interest in a career in teaching, and over half also are Pell Grant eligible. So it's important for us to kind of have a mix and represent the communities which we serve in, which are very diverse communities. So when we are recruiting and going out and hiring, we source in that way. Looks like we're having technical difficulty. I apologize about that. And overall, this is what we know is we're in communities, they're high need communities where there's a gap between, what our schools are able to do and the needs of the communities. We want to partner with school districts because we understand that through partnership, we're able to really fill in some of the gaps that are needed and not addressed by just a regular setup of schools. For us, it's really important for us to approach that process through a strong partnership, through just having a clear identity of what we want to do. Tasha's going to go into what we look at as our model as whole school, whole child. But overarching, as you're looking at the presentation, I think it's important for you to understand that we've kind of laid some anchors in the ground to frame how we do things, and you'll see that it's the youth development approach that really kind of anchors who we are and what we do. And I'm going to pass it to Tasha.
Thank you, Virgil. I'm Natasha Golden, and I get to be the National After School Specialist for City Year Incorporated. And as Virgil explained, there's a gap that exists between what kids need and what our schools are designed and resourced to do. And this is where City Year comes in. Simply put, City Year defines culture and climate as culture as the things that we do in a school, and climate as how a school feels. Our work in schools is designed to meet students' holistic set of academic and social emotional needs. One of our key differentiators is the fact that our AmeriCorps members are there full-time from before the first bell through the conclusion of after school. So spending an entire day with students allows us to get to know them and their strengths and needs in many different contexts, as well as contribute to a positive whole school culture and climate. On a high level, our model increases the ratio of adults to students, which gives schools the critical capacity they need to implement proven reforms, which is good for students because they receive more individualized attention and support. Additionally, our AmeriCorps member teams are able to host special events and other student engagement initiatives to help build a positive school-wide climate. Going back one slide. So through our model and our overall youth development approach, 3 intermediate outcomes that we seek to help build in our students are identity formation, agency, and durable skills. We believe that if we're able to help students, 1, understand and communicate their needs as a learner, 2, gain confidence in their ability to succeed, and 3, build skills to manage various situations, that will be able to produce well-rounded young people.
Because of this approach, one of the things we wanted to highlight, as we know, in many of the schools that we're in, there's this pull and push of how to address everything that comes into the school building. wanted to just highlight from Polly and Associates a research study from 2015 that says that if schools partner with City Year, also gain equivalent of about 1 month of additional in math and English and math learning, in addition to our two to three times more likely to improve proficiency in English and math assessments. What we wanted to highlight this because we understand that this is something that's really important in the schoolhouse level. So just taking this overall approach, taking this deliberate approach, taking this youth development approach, we believe that putting all those things together have been able to result in these positive gains that we see across the country.
So one of the ways that we've been able to work towards the intermediate outcomes and as well as build a positive whole school culture and climate is taking a youth development approach, and that is the Clover model. All of our impact managers receive training in the Clover model, which is a model that helps differentiate social, emotional, and behavioral needs at different levels of adolescence. And part of this training that impact managers receive is centered on understanding child development and ensuring that we're meeting students where they are throughout all of our interactions throughout the day. Use of this youth development model integrated with other City Year power tools and child development strategies gives our AmeriCorps members the language and foundation to truly support students in whatever stage they may be.
And an additional tool that we utilize, or just practice that we utilize, is utilization of data to improve practice. For us, we wanted to highlight the Devereaux Student Assurance Assessment, which all of our sites utilize, and they measure pro-social behaviors for our students. Our AmeriCorps members utilize an observation period to really look at these specific areas, and then it really influences how they interact with the young people that they're working with on a daily basis. This is a cross environment, so if there's a situation where they're working with a young person in one-on-one speaking or looking at interaction with other adults and other students in the school community, they're able to refer to where some strengths are, where there's some areas of development, and really work towards supporting young people in that. And City Year Detroit will talk a little more about that later. So we did an overarching high-level kind of assessment of City Year National and our social emotional learning work. Now we're going to kick it over to the Detroit team to talk about what it looks like on the ground.
Thanks so much, Virgil. As it says on the screen there, my name is Brian Keelkelly. I get to serve as the Learning and Development Director here at City Year Detroit. And we're going to kick off a discussion about our work here, not only at Osborne High School, but the other schools that we serve. Before we do that, though, we wanted to take a moment to put the partnership with Detroit schools into the full context of the education landscape found in the city. K-12 education in the city of Detroit is a complex enterprise with many different actors in the ecosystem. Most notably, one of the largest charter sectors in the country operates alongside the traditional public school district. Based on recent studies, around half of the students in the city of Detroit attend charters. City of Detroit partners solely with schools in Detroit Public Schools Community District, the main public school district in the city. Until 2016, the district was under state control for many years, run by emergency managers who stayed in the role for very short amounts of time. This governance structure had a really detrimental impact on the system. Only in the last 2 years has there been a return to local control, which includes our first school board election and the hiring of a full-time superintendent in Dr. Nikolai Beatty. In almost every metric, Detroit Public Schools Community District is in what most education experts would call turnaround mode, and district leadership is spending considerable energy developing and implementing plans to improve the outcomes for children in the city. Along with many others, we're excited and encouraged by the positive momentum surrounding Detroit Public Schools Community District and the leadership displayed by Dr. Beatty and his team. Last school year, enrollment in DPSCD grew for the first time in over a decade, and as we begin the new school year, anecdotal evidence points to increased enrollment again in school year 18-19. As you can see on the slide here, City Year Detroit deploys 91 AmeriCorps members across 9 campuses. As Virgil and Tasha mentioned, our AmeriCorps members serve in schools from before the first bell rings through the end of the school day and in after-school programs to provide support to students designed to increase academic performance, promote positive pro-social behavior, and encourage consistent attendance. In our efforts to promote positive behavior, we work with teachers and school administrators to lead and support school culture and climate improvement work. Given the context I just walked through, we're very excited to be working in such close partnership with Detroit Public Schools Community District. One of the most influential pieces of work led by the school board, Dr. Beatty, the community at large, and his team is the development of a strategic plan that clearly lays out the priorities for DPSCD moving forward. Of most relevance to the current discussion are the pillars of building a transformative culture and the commitment to the whole child. Additionally, the district has committed human capital to culture and climate work in the form of deans of culture, now present in every school, and additional guidance counselors across the district. We're excited to see the ways in which our partner principals are developing school improvement plans that align to this strategic plan. City of Detroit aims to work in lockstep with our partners at DPSCD, including principals, teachers, and district officials, and that work really starts with the training of our staff and AmeriCorps members. As part of our efforts to prepare our teams for excellent service to the students of Detroit, our AmeriCorps members receive over 300 hours of training. Additionally, our staff spends considerable time during the summer and throughout the school year developing their skills for formal learning. Our major efforts in training include pre-service training on school culture and climate, training designed to support our AmeriCorps members in developing skills as youth development practitioners, and training geared towards developing relationships with students and assisting students in developing mindsets for future success. Throughout the year, we provide additional training to support our staff and AmeriCorps members to help deepen the impact they're able to have with students. But given all this training, what are the ways that school culture and climate work plays out in our partner schools? The table on the slide represents a sampling of the work that City Year teams do in Detroit schools. To orient you to this table, at City Year, we see school culture and climate work touching all aspects of school life. And with that, our programming attempts to provide supportive and caring service at the whole school level, when addressing the needs of the whole child, and when building relationships with all adults in the school building. We aren't perfect at all of these pieces of work yet, but as we grow and develop, we look forward to improving this work wherever needed. The other key point here is that City Year prioritizes our support of school leadership, especially when it comes to school culture and climate initiatives and positive behavior supports for students. This work was crowdsourced from Adam and the other impact managers, and I want to allow folks maybe 30 to 45 seconds just to read through. I know it's pretty text heavy, so I'm going to do that now. There'll be a little bit of dead air. Don't adjust your television sets or anything like that. So go ahead and read. If you do have any questions, we'd be happy to walk through any specifics in the Q&A portion as well. All right. So we want to now walk through some successes and some areas for improvement that we've seen over the last few years. One major success is that we tracked how our AmeriCorps members respond to our training. Healthy majorities of our corps stated their agreement that City Year's youth development model helps them build relationships and learning experiences that meet the needs of their students. This is on an upward trajectory that we hope to see continue in the coming years. Our partner principals have also rated our teams very highly in the last year, particularly when it comes to relationships with staff and school climate. And you'll hear from a great principal, Trishon Johnson, who leads the team here at Osborne High School. Similarly, our partner teachers have rated our AmeriCorps members highly when it comes to impact on school climate, learning environment, and overall impact. You can also see a few select quotes pulled out for this slide. Another success is that we have the great fortune of being an organization with deep local partnerships, but we also have the great pleasure of sitting inside of a larger national organization that has the resources that come along with a national relationship. As Virgil referenced above, we make use of the Devereaux Student Strengths Assessment, our youth development model, and the Growth Mindset for Mentors toolkit to enhance our work. We also make sure we are working in partnership with our teachers and principals to support their positive behavior initiatives, which you'll hear from Principal Johnson and Adam in just a moment. As we're thinking about areas for improvement, one of the big things we see is that we need to prioritize this work. So there are so many things that need to happen within a school day, especially in the high school space with planning for post-secondary opportunities. We need to make sure that school culture and climate work fits into the larger priorities at each building that we're partnered with. And I think we see the district moving in that direction. But as the vision for GPSCD and each of our partner schools continues to develop, City Year needs to become even more flexible and adaptable so that we can become the best partners that we can for our schools and for the district writ large. We can always calibrate our work to better meet the needs of students. What I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to pass it over to my colleague Adam Scanlon to talk through some of the specifics of City Year's partnership here at Osborne High School.
Hi everyone, my name is Adam Scanlon. I'm the impact manager here of the City Year team at Osborne, which means I manage the team of AmeriCorps members through a year of service. I would like to thank everybody for their participation and make it brief. Sorry about that. We are so fortunate to continue our partnership with Osborne, which is City Year Detroit's oldest, and this year we are able to continue our service with Principal Prashawn Johnson, who you've mentioned here, who is leading Osborne to a bright future, much of the reason being her team's commitment to culture and climate work. Some of City Year's greatest impact at Osborne has been in the area of culture and climate. Our model, which you've heard discussed thoroughly here, of placing a diverse team of idealistic young people who act as student success coaches and near-peer mentors to students at Osborne and high-need urban schools, our model really works. Last year, we saw 100% of our high-need behavior students reduce their number of suspensions by the end of the year. Nearly half of our attendance students who started the year off track finished the year on track, at or above 90% in average daily attendance. Our work in student social emotional learning saw results as well. 80% of our evaluated Osborne students using the Devereaux Student Strength Assessment to guide our action plans grew in areas like goal-directed behavior, relationship skills, decision-making, and optimistic thinking. Our program offers a number of elements to Osborne regarding culture and climate. Each day we foster and develop near-peer relationships with students, relationships that are made possible by our core members' proximity and age to students and their diverse backgrounds and experiences. We implement a weekly check-in and check-out model for both attendance and behavior, the crux of which is coaching and goal setting, with each student's individualized needs in mind. We morning greet the students each day and cheer them on as they enter the school first thing in the morning. We also employ conflict de-escalation strategies and use restorative practice questions as we continue to promote and support Osborne's PBIS. Our efforts to progress monitor our students' performance and unique needs really comes directly from the whole school, whole child model you've heard so much about here today. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much. We're very thankful to have City Year National and City Year Detroit share their presentations. And at this time, we'd like to move into a panel discussion. So we're going to invite Brian and Adam to share their webcams. And we'd like to now invite Principal Johnson and Jamon Miller to join the panel discussion. So if you're all able to turn on your cameras. Wonderful. All right. So everyone should have 4 smiling faces at the top of your screen. We are thrilled to invite you all now into a discussion about what it really looks like. And we're hoping to invite your stories and your perspective as folks who are doing this hard but really important and critical work in the school and in the district. I want to give a special shout out to Principal Johnson and Jamon Miller. We always love to get the perspectives of young people and principals, and we know you have busy lives and busy schedules, so thank you for making time to share your perspective with a national audience. All right, so I'd like to start with Jamon. You've heard the presentation today, and you have a great relationship, special relationship with Adam. When you think about school climate, what does a positive school climate look like and sound like to you?
When I think of a positive school climate, I think of walking in the door with people with open arms and ready to learn. I like to hear people having casual conversations about classwork and just progressing through the day and really getting help throughout the day.
I think I heard some good nuggets in there about interactions between young people and between young people and adults. So I want to kick it over to Adam and Principal Johnson. hearing Jamon's answer, what did it take to build trust, to create a vision for school climate at Osborne? And then along the way, as you got going, what happened to make you think this could work?
Well, I'll start off with that one. In order to build just a trusting climate, we had to be trustworthy. So we had to do what we say, we had to be visible, and we had to be consistent. Our students would look for us in the mornings, as Jamon would say. We have those conversations. But the visibility that we ask the students, what we ask of ourselves, we all do it together. And then the consistency to do it at the same time when no one is watching. So those are things that we did to assist with building the culture. And it was the entire team that did it.
Yeah, I would just like to second that. I think our visibility in the building each day, in the classroom each day, as we greet students in the morning and sort of just try to sort of send a positive sort of feeling through them as they enter the building. I think as we sort of develop our communications with one another and get to know one another as sort of a partner coming into this sort of already existing school culture climate, we really do try to think about sort of the ways in which we can sort of supplement and sort of the work that Ms. Johnson and we're so wonderfully doing right now, but also sort of integrate ourselves into that school culture environment.
Great, thank you. Principal Johnson, I know principals are always in planning mode and strategic planning. How has City Year's presence in the school helped you to meet your goals as a principal?
Oh, they have helped tremendously. They have, with the cohort that I have and that I've had in the past, they've just stepped right in and grabbed those ninth graders that bridge the gap from that 8th grade middle school into that 9th grade component of real world, I would say, where no one's really holding your hand when you get to high school. City Year were the hand holders, those students, they grabbed the students, let them know that they cared about them, let them know the consistency, and that's what bridged that gap within the students to allow the vision of having a culture where the students feel confident to speak to each other, having the need for their support system. So City Year really bridged that gap with our 9th grade group to hold on to them, to show them academically what to do in school, to show them socially and behaviorally, and then demonstrate that with activities so that they didn't feel left out. So it was that gap and that bridge with that personal connection, the one-to-one support, and then just the ability that our students knew they had a person to go to, so they didn't have to find me or my assistant principal. They could find someone in their support group that's immediate with them all day, and then support the learning and instruction. So it bridged our gap. It allowed for that uneasiness, I would say, when 9th graders come in, to feel confident in having academic goals in a social life in high school, and then let them and to continue forward.
Yeah, if I could just add to that, I often think of the work that we do as sort of nag and nurture, a big brother, big sister sort of role model who steps in. Sometimes the student may find that sort of consistency, that sort of keeping on you about your work and sort of coming to school a little, might be a little irritating for the first time, but after a little while, I think we often find that students really grow to sort of appreciate and value and understand sort of, the consistent support that they receive from each of our board members every day.
Thank you. Principal Johnson, I know in previous discussions you've talked about one of your goals was to make Osborne feel like one school and everyone is one, and it sort of felt like a school spirit perspective. I wonder if you and the rest on the panel and Jamon, sort of how you feel that one Osborne type of culture, what that means too.
Well, I'll start off because it's so interesting. This year with my new chorus City Year members, they told me my statement for belonging, which really just kind of gathered with my staff meeting. We were in a staff meeting. They say, no, this is how you introduce yourself from now on. And it brought a sense of belonging together by, what am I supposed to say, Adam? I serve Osborne High School. I am the proud principal, and we serve every day. And team, Every
Every
night.
night.
So with that, just that one saying, it brought my staff to say, hey, wait a minute, they didn't brought us a slogan that we can use to service the community, to get that sense of belonging, and then grow together. And that's what City Year does. They grab us by the hands, we get that sense of belonging, and they support the mission of the school. And that's how it cultivated to the one school component, and we're one band every day and every night now. So I love it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, particularly with all of the really wonderful programs that have been implemented this year, from the weekly town halls to the emphasis on Knights Pride and school spirit, and sort of giving a little bit of Osborne swag to students to sort of try to re-energize sort of their passion for academics and their passion for their community school. I mean, hats off to you, Mr. Johnson.
Jamon, I'm looking at you. How do you feel on this issue?
I am a part of the Osborne Night Riders. It's a robotics team, and I am proud to be a part of this team. We are one. Even when our school was divided, we were one team. Our spirit was high. Morale was high. I feel like school spirit should be it's just a daily part of our lives, and it's wonderful.
Awesome. So this is a question for anyone, and we heard a little bit about it here in terms of the training that AmeriCorps members go through. But on sort of a day-to-day interactions level, what does it take to build relationships and trust between AmeriCorps members and students? And this is for anyone who wants to go first.
Principal Johnson, do you have an answer?
Well, sure, I always have an answer. I was just not going to take over the screen. But yes, building that trust.
We like to hear.
We say, of course. But building that trust, I had to bridge the gap. So in our meetings, I let the ninth graders know, hey, you've got a group of people for you alone, to make sure you are successful. And when I bridged that gap and turned it over to my ninth graders to say, this is your person, you go to them for the support, for the mentoring, the after school, get involved in the activities. And they say, these people are for me. I say, yes, this is your group. So once we bridge the gap of, you can go talk to our City Year cohort members. You can go get the support you need from them. My students felt comfortable and confident that I was sending them off to a group of people that they can respect, that would respond to them, and that would support them. So bridging that gap and having that conversation, just to tell my kids, it's okay to talk to them. It's okay to use the support. And then following back, checking with the students. I check with the students. I don't think Adam knows this, but I check with the students all the time. How was Adam today? You guys do this. Just because I do. But the students need to know that once I gave them to City Year, that I'm also going to come back and check on them and make sure they are getting the service, the support they need. They have the wraparound. They got a friend that they can communicate issues with. And if it's something we can't handle in our restorative practices or with our one-to-one mentoring, then we have a support team to take you to get those services and those barriers removed so that you can be academically successful. So that's just bridging that gap and letting them know and checking back behind them.
Yeah, I think so much of what Principal Johnson just said really speaks to some of the magic that comes in with the near-peer model that City Year puts into place, that Adam talked about and Virgil and Tasha talked about, really thinking through what does it mean to have someone that's close enough in age to remember what it was like to be in high school, remember what it was like to be in middle school, but then also old enough to have some guidance, some mentoring conversation with it that I maybe didn't have all the same experiences as you, but I'm close enough in age to say, yeah, I remember similar things, and here's how I navigated that situation. And we prioritize that, especially in the beginning of the year with our AmeriCorps members in their training, is how do you have those conversations in productive, safe ways with the students that you'll be working with?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if I could just add to that, I would just say that sort of in building relationships with students, just so that consistent sort of point of contact, you also get to know students and you figure out where their needs are, and you sort of are able to target sort of what their academic needs are, what their social emotional learning needs are, and we're able to sort of leverage those relationships in a really positive way and provide those supports. And I think if we really focus and continue to focus on that kind of work, I think we'll see even greater impact at Osborne this year.
One of the ways I feel like you can build a relationship with an AmeriCorps Corps member would be the AmeriCorps member like being consistent, asking what do you need, coming to your classes and like actually helping you with your work, and just being consistent on an everyday notice, being there at the front door for you. Like, it's consistent and it really shows that people care.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I think a lot of your responses hit on some common themes across what it takes to improve school climate. I want to pose a question to Brian and Adam. You mentioned some of the training involved, and I think that's part of what's compelling about the City Year model. But sometimes training falls flat. So how do you follow up on the training that AmeriCorps members do to ensure that it's really informing that relationship building on an ongoing basis throughout the school?
Yeah, I think we're really fortunate at City Year Detroit to have a staffing structure that really supports ongoing continuous improvement and learning for our AmeriCorps members. So part of that is Adam's position, and he has a counterpart at every one of our 9 campuses. I think there are 2 other staff positions that I really want to highlight, one being the evaluation manager that we have, or 3 positions. One being evaluation manager, a person dedicated solely to looking at our data and helping us make data-informed decisions when we think about student service. Another position is what we call an impact coach. So this is analogous to an instructional coach in a school building, but these are full-time City Year staff members that have a portfolio of core members where they'll provide observation and coaching support to those core members to help them improve their practice in sort of real time. And that's where if a training falls flat or it's not connecting, and they can say to their impact coach, look, I tried out what we talked about last week in training. It's not working. What else do you have? They have resources, strategies, different things that they can provide to core members to try and implement to improve outcomes for students. And then the last sort of position that I'll highlight, though I think all of our staff is amazing, is this position called Impact Director. And this is someone that is liaison really directly with both school districts and principal officials to really shepherd our school partnerships and really try to provide common support across a portfolio of schools, really pulling together City Year's strategy to implement it in the ways in which it'll provide the most support to students. But Adam, I don't know if you have anything else to add.
I could not agree more. The Learning and Development Department and the Impact Directors are central to sort of the month-long intense training that core members get before service and the trainings throughout the year, the twice monthly the core members do during the year. It's also figuring out, once you have your team of core members, figuring out sort of what their unique needs as a team are, and sort of what the cultural, the culture and climate needs of the school are. From DPSUD school to DPSUD school, the culture and climate may be very different. It's sort of figuring out through sort of the more guided trainings, the more formal trainings, also community asset mapping and community engagement and outreach, and just figuring out the ways in which we can sort of best sort of inform ourselves about the work we're committing to.
Thank you. I just want to remind our panelists to mute in between, so if you could just remember to do that because of the echo. All right, thank you.
Sure.
So I'm going to pitch this question actually more specifically to Principal Johnson and Brian. If you could speak to the most important mindsets and actions adults need to create a positive school climate, and if you could be specific. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I'll start with a growth mindset. They have to be able to believe. They got to believe that the students can achieve, and yes, that's a cliche, but you have to believe. So you have to start there. And with that belief that the students can achieve, you have to believe that they will act like they should in school. As a citizen of the school, that's just a simple fact of belief in the growth mindset. That if they can do it, we can teach it. That's what we're here for. And then the students will be successful. We'll turn around with a successful model of culture and climate in our building, of which we have. And then the second thing that I'll say that people doing this work, because it's not just me, it's not just a teacher, it's a team of people. It's just to have patience. You got to have patience to try it again, to fail. And we say failure, in my words, are feedback. Give me some feedback and then I can go try it again. It's not necessarily failure, it's feedback. Give us that feedback and then we can do some things and try it again. And the people doing this work have to know there is going to be some feedback. So you have to continuously get that process in your mind to make sure that whatever happened today, we leave it on the doorsteps, and tomorrow we start again with a fresh growth mindset, a positive mindset, and just back at it. So you got to have that patience to continue the process, because you can easily get upset and frustrated and say, okay, just forget it. We're not going to do this, and I'm going to send everybody out and do whatever your code of conduct does. It's not going to work. The patience to say, no, let's take this case by case. Let's talk to the people, the students. Let's get the team involved to get the process done, to get the work to impact the student.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can see why we love partnering with Principal Johnson. So much of what she said is exactly what City Year's mindsets for success really are, especially when we're thinking about our core members. Growth mindset, resilience in the face of challenges. I think that's what we're trying to instill in the students that we're working with. And if City Year core members are nothing else, they are good role models for that, or we strive to be. I think the other thing that we really have to think about is this mindset towards continuous improvement. There's so much work to be done. There's so many data points that we could look at. As long as we keep this idea in the front of our mind that every sort of incremental piece of growth that we can see is valuable, we should celebrate that. We should hold it out and then go right back to work and really think about the strategic ways that we can improve outcomes for students with this continuous improvement mindset, and doing the things, the little things, the practices that we know work based on research, but sometimes get sort of like pushed to the side because there's these big, hairy, audacious things that we need to get done. It's the little things. It's the relationship that Jaymon and Adam share, and that Jaymon shares with the core members here at Osborne, that I think when we keep that at the forefront of our mind, really drive to success.
Thank you so much. I think mindsets are key to this work, especially as we think about a really diverse workforce, multi-generational, multiracial. So just making sure we've got our foundational documents in place, like the growth mindset training, to make the good school climate work happen. I want to shift a little bit into probing on challenges, and I think Principal Johnson already alluded to this a little bit. What are some of the challenges of implementing the City Year model, specifically maybe, but also just generally about improving school climate?
Start this one off.
Do you want to talk first, Principal Johnson, or do you want us to go?
Look, I was trying not to hog up the video time, but just the challenges is the it can wear you down. It can really wear you down because you have to leave all of your problems, issues, concerns, whatever your real world and life situations are, you have to stop them once you get into the door of the school to service the kids. So that can be cumbersome, that you have to, they ask me all the time, why are you always smiling and laughing and having fun? You've got to be able to demonstrate what you want and it be authentic, and then give the students something to look for. So that challenge is just the consistency and the wearing down on just those big, like you said, Brian, hairy issues that you've got to cover in 20 minutes, or the what could go wrong. But the challenge is simply the drive within individually, intrinsic and extrinsic, to continue day after day after day. My city year people, they sing songs and party outside at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, one morning, I'm like, are they still out there? And they're like, yes, we're going back. So it's like, okay. So then I had to change my mindset to, we're going to party and sing in the morning. Okay, let them be. So that consistency of doing it when it matters, doing it when no one is watching, and continuing the relationship building to meet the students' needs. That is the challenge. Everything else we can deal with. The relationships, you'll grow to learn somebody, you'll work together, you'll grow to work together effectively. But just being able to say, I'm gonna do this tomorrow, and then I'm gonna do it the next day, and I'm gonna do it the next day, and then it becomes that smile on your face, like, now it's getting fun. But just consistency every day.
Yeah, core members serve 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, in sometimes have challenging days. But I think we're always able to sort of distill everything down. Sort of the concentrate of City Year is that every student can learn, and our work matters a great deal. And I think even through sort of those challenging winter months in February, when it's dark when you leave, or when you arrive at school in the morning, and it's dark when you leave school at night, City Year is able to sort of recenter everybody and focus on sort of the mission that we all sort of started the year with, and sort of provide all kinds of supports and sort of additional trainings for folks as they sort of transit or sort of try to persevere through those more challenging parts of the year.
Great. I actually want to hear Jamon's thoughts. Now that you've heard some of these challenges, do you have thoughts for the adults in your life on how they could address these challenges, and do you think anything needs to change?
Like Mr. Johnson said, consistency. I feel like if you stay consistent and you are doing it when no one is watching, and kids see that you're being consistent and you have energy every day and you are just motivated to do better, it'll eventually affect everyone around you. And if we see that you're having all of this energy in the morning, I feel like, hey, why do I not have all this energy? Maybe I should step my game up. And that's one of the reasons why I come to school. I see these people every day coming to school. I have to be here. That's just one of the reasons why. Well, that's just one of the ways that you can just improve overall. Just stay consistent.
We just found out if we know it's working.
Good job. There you go. That's some good motivation.
Yes, it is.
All right, I want to close out the group portion of the panel discussion with a question to anyone who would like to start. What advice would you give to other practitioners in the field who are working to improve school climate in their schools and districts?
So be flexible. You never know where the students are coming from, with what, where from, why, or all of that. So we take students at their individual concerns. And yes, we have 550 something students in the day, 100 students at night. And we take each of those students' individual needs, wants, and concerns, and we address them. So the flexibility of that. Someone may not have a pencil, a shirt, a lunch, a bed. It doesn't matter. Come on in, get to the school, get your cheered in on the way, and we will work with every issue you may have. So flexibility, because you cannot take every student the same way. It doesn't work, and the culture won't change. So when you're flexible, you're listening to the students, discerning where the foolishness is coming from, and then actually supporting their needs with consistency and what you ask of the student, you also do. You can do the culture. The culture will work, and it will go down where you have a positive culture where students are advocating for themselves, they're requesting and talking about their needs and being able to service the student like we should do at a school, but flexibility and that continuous determination.
Yeah, I think that the two things I would add that City Year really holds dear too are, one is the belief in the power of young people, not only our core members, but the students, and professing that belief and professing that love and desire to see them succeed, and making that explicit. So much of that lives implicitly in adults that work with children, but if we're able to vocalize that, it starts to feel less squishy every time you do it, and then you start to see those things really come to life. And then the second thing is, like, maintain that rigor and don't sort of accept the status quo. And I think that's where the young people are driving a lot of that. And I think we see that across this country, but especially with City Year and the young at heart, I should say, as well, to really make sure that we are driving and not settling for anything less than what we would for all of our students.
I think just to check mark everything that's already been said, but I think a big thing that we sort of try to do every day is collaborate on how to make students feel a sense of belonging when they come to their community school. What can we do to make them feel welcome and make them feel like this is a learning environment they want to come to each and every day, that opportunities are being afforded to them, that there is academic rigor, but there's also extracurricular opportunities. And I think we see it across our schools, and surely here is the great work that's being done by Principal Pashawn Johnson and her team, and a little bit because of the work that we do, hopefully, that students feel a stronger sense of belonging each and every day.
Yeah. Jamon, do you have advice?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I feel like just come with an open mind and understanding. Everyone comes from a different situation. Just have an open mind and be consistent, like I said earlier, and I feel like that's pretty good advice.
I would agree with you there. That is good advice. Jamon, do you have thoughts about what happens after high school graduation for you?
I was thinking of going to school to be an engineer or a bunch of other things. I'm not really settled on what I want to be, but most definitely engineering is one of the things I'm thinking of.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. And I ask because you don't have to have it settled, but it's good to have ideas. That is going to be the end of our panel discussion. I want to say a big thank you again to Adam and Jamon and Brian and Principal Johnson for participating. Don't go anywhere. We're about to transition into our question and answer period. We have received a few questions through the question function, and I want to encourage everyone else on the webinar to continue to do so. I'm going to pass it over to Navesha, who's going to share the question, and we'll do our best to pinpoint who it's for. Just a warning, Principal Johnson, get ready.
Okay, so the first question that we have is for Principal Johnson. So in addition to City Year, what other ways are you and your staff working to address school climate and culture?
Oh, I have a team. I have a team of 12 participants. So we have a dean of culture who is the overarching culture component. Then we have 2 culture facilitators, 2 attendance agents, 2 social workers, and then a litany of security and colleagues who actually just pitch in. So then we have a process for those staff members. There's usually 4 and 4 on the floor. So we have different zones where we greet our students. So if once they get in the door, by the time they get to City Year, they have to get to me. I greet students at the door in the mornings. After they pass me from the door, they got to get to the lunch lady who greets them at the door. So it's a consistent model of when you get in the building, someone speaks to you wherever you are within our culture team, and then we address your needs if it's something to address, or we thank you for coming to class today and get you into your location. So I have a large team and we do it as a team. So We have different zones where they stand to even in hall passing time. We finally got bells. This is the first year we had bells. So we would operate and move hall passing time with class to class change with just my team being in the hallway, being visible. When it's bell passing time, everyone goes out in the hallway and stands and talks to a kid. And on the way out the door, every day somebody is high-fiving the kid on the way out the door. So there are different components and pieces that we do, but we do it with a team. And now with City Year in 9th grade, we've got a support team with 10th grade who focuses on, well, it's our academic interventionist who goes into the classroom to support the student there. Our 11th grade, we go upwards with a SAT program and a freshman or a seminar, it's not freshman, but a seminar that the 11th graders can go in and get that individual immediate support. We got a 12th grade support system. So we start, City Year is just our pillar of support as we grow up to ensure that our students continue to get the support they need. We drop the core members because we can't support that many within one team, but the human capital decreases, but we support vertically within our components of grade level.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for sharing that. The second question that we have, this is for anyone who would like to answer. It says, you mentioned taking every situation case by case. Do you use restorative justice circles at all in the work that you guys do to promote positive school climate?
Yes. Look, we have a circle lady. She is housed in our building who, if you start talking too loud, I say, where's the circle lady? It's everybody got to go to circle, which is restorative practices that we use, which it kind of works well for us. Jaymon, have you ever had to do restorative practices? I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah. So, but if it's a situation, we have restorative practices. So a lot of times, if our students have an altercation, a weekend altercation, they come in on Monday and they're just not feeling the atmosphere. They don't want to hear anybody. They want to get at the person they had an altercation with during the weekend. We find out who it is, go directly to our restorative practice. They have a session. Then we go from there if it has to go to a different level where we need to call in parents and have a conversation. And the parents do restorative circles as well. So everybody, teachers who argue with teachers, you go to the circle lady. So everyone has to participate in that restorative practices, which it has calmed our culture down where the kids want to go speak with our restorative practices before they even see the culture team. They said, just let me go to our restorative practice, have this conversation, and we'll be okay. So a lot of times now that the students have the safety that we are supporting them academically and socially, they have the wraparound service that if we need to get a person, they have their group of people, but they'll advocate and go into our restorative circle just so that they know they can solve the problem and get back into the classroom.
Just add on to that, we have the City Year team at Osborne has a really strong relationship with the restorative practices manager here. And we sort of collaborate around issues with certain students that we know we can sort of de-escalate and figure out ways to sort of avoid conflict as best as possible. And core members have been trained on the restorative practice questions and sort of what happened, what were you thinking, sort of how to engage students in a way that sort of is productive and avoids having to sort of go through the sort of higher rungs of the culture team.
Great, thank you. We have one more question around the DESA data that was mentioned in the City Year presentation. If you could say a little bit more about how it informs what happens in the school or how it informs the core members' actions.
Yeah, so the DESA data really feeds our student progress monitoring work. And I want to clarify one thing that we don't, the DESA is an assessment that is logged by core members. And so we don't ever report on it in a summative way. We highlighted that data point to really highlight some of the positive growth that we've seen in our students, but it's not something that we're like holding core members accountable for DESA growth because we feel like that incentivizes bad practices. But what we do use it for is to have frank conversations around what we're noticing and what we're actually observing. And that's the key point, is that we equip our core members to take low inference notes about what's happening in their students' lives within the school building and what they're learning during their conversations, and track that using the DESA. And the DESA is a strengths-based assessment that uses 8 social emotional competencies to track progress. And then every 2 weeks, we're having conversations as a team, as a City Year team. Core members are talking with one another, talking with their manager to really understand, okay, here's what I've seen in my student in terms of growth. This is what I tried to do. Here's the result that it had. And then every month we're doing data reviews to see what type of growth and progress that our students have made. And then we log another DESA based on the month's observations that we've seen. And it just feeds this cycle that allows our core members to really get specific about the type of goal setting they want to do with their students, and intentional about what am I going to do as a core member to help this student grow in goal-directed behavior, let's say.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for answering those questions. So that wraps up the question and answers portion of our webinar. And that's all we have time for today. But we just wanted to thank all the presenters and the panelists once again for a great webinar. You guys did an awesome job, so thank you again. And we hope that you enjoyed today's webinar and learned more about how relationships and mindsets strengthen school climate and how a community in Detroit is using them to create a positive school climate in a specific school, which is Osborne High School. And it seems as though from Jamon's responses to the questions that they're on the right track and they're doing just the right things to create a positive school climate. So that's all we have time for today, and thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm